Good evening. Welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have Sam Bam on. How are you doing, man?
What's up? I'm good. How are you, man?
Good. I know you're in a few different bands. You're most known for being in Faster Pussycat, a legendary or legacy or classic band that I've been a big fan of and spoke to many members, past and present.
I've seen your interviews with Greg and Brent. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep.
We have a new single coming out in less than 2 weeks now. So it comes out on May 21st.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting, for me personally to be a part of the band's legacy and to have gotten to work with Taime like that. And it's really cool.
Oh, so you're in a couple other bands though. Let's touch on those first. Yeah. Why'd you go over some of the ones you're in? Your more active ones.
One band is called Butterside.
Yes.
I've been playing with them for about 3 or 4 years. 4 years, I think. Well, it started a little over 4 years ago, but more seriously in the band about 3 or 4 years. And it's we just had a record come out at the end of March. That was pretty long process to get together and get out, but that's out. It's called Spiritual Violence, and we're working on new stuff. We're working on our third record actually right now. We started by recording 4 new songs with kind of a pretty modern producer guy. His name's Matt Good. He works with like Asking Alexandria and Butcher Babies and bands that are kind of in that vein of heavy rock, and started recording a third record, and pretty proud of how that's gone so far. So that's one band.
That's pretty fast to put an album out. You already started working on another one?
Well, kind of. I mean, that other album has been done for a while. Like I recorded it quite a long time ago, and there was all these different things that took a while to get it out, like past band members. We had a lineup change and a couple other things kind of slowed it down for a couple of years. But
I hear you. You guys are pretty good. I heard some clips online. I was checking you guys out prior, your other stuff. So that's pretty cool. How are you gonna, as COVID's changing and opening up, people are starting to play out now. How are you gonna be able to play out with them and do Faster Pussycat and do how does that work?
Kind of figure it out as I go.
I love to ask people that you guys are in a lot of bands, and I love to ask how does that work? Because I can't get my kids to school, and then the others I can't get that coordinated. I couldn't imagine having multiple schedules.
Yeah, the coordination gets a little difficult, but at the same time, I mean, I started playing in bars when I was like 12 and then started playing in all different cover bands back home. And I always had at least like somewhere from 10 to 12 different bands that was always kind of like putting stuff in here and putting stuff in there. So for me, I don't like to be sitting around and not doing anything. I got to constantly be working or writing or playing or something. So yeah, there's been studio stuff with Butterside, studio stuff with Faster Pussycat, studio stuff with an artist named Dorothy, studio stuff with more bands on the side, even other than that. And yeah, I like working in both environments, both the live environment and the studio environment, because studio is fun to just kind of, try to make some cool stuff happen, at least try to make some noises come out of the guitar. And then live is just, that's the payoff afterwards, is getting to play everything live.
So Dorothy is the other one, right?
Yes.
Dorothy, you said?
Yes.
Do you write for that one, or is that are you just a guitar player?
That I kind of just started with, and honestly, I haven't even played a show with her because of COVID. So, kind of looking to see what happens with that. I do know that I recorded some songs for her record that's supposed to come out this year, and just kind of, seeing what happens with that. But I just started working with her basically right at the beginning of the pandemic. Then we worked a little together during the pandemic, and then, like I said, I haven't even played a show yet. So,
are you able to write in all these bands, or do you have different? Or each band have a different role? Like, you play the music. One band you kind of write. One band, you know what I'm saying?
All of them, yeah. I mean, Butterside is I mainly get to write for. So now going forward, and so with Faster, yeah, I've written some stuff for Taime. I've written like 4 or 5 ideas so far that are kind of the stuff that we've been working on is stuff that he's kind of had and he's kind of been working on. So, and then, you know, with Dorothy, I wrote with her 1 or 2 times before. None of that, we didn't end up using any of that stuff, but it kind of started that thing of seeing how people work. And
yeah. Well,
so
I think it's gonna be kind of interesting because it's very eclectic as we talk about 3 at once. Faster Pussycat has a sound. It sounds like you're kind of leaning back to it a little bit, but not much. Like it's a balancing act. And then you're, you know, so each band is different sounding. And if you're writing for different bands, you're doing different things, which can be kind of fun and challenging if you're doing it at the same time, you know?
I completely enjoy that kind of thing because I like all kinds of rock. So I like stuff that's super heavy and tuned down to B. And then I like stuff that's like, you know, super stonesy or super classic rock-ish. And then I like the super industrial kind of thing. I like stuff all over the map. So it's always kind of fun to try to be able to draw from different stuff too, different things. You know, I want to be able to on the spot, if Taime wants something that sounds like Nine Inch Nails, you know, pull out something that sounds like Nine Inch Nails, but then at the same time be able to do something that's kind of stonesy, or, you know, there's all different stuff everywhere.
Well, that's a good, well, yeah, he's actually done a lot of different sounds. So that gives you a lot more choices too for creativity. He's the king of having different sounds. So that's pretty cool.
Completely.
So to freeze on that thought, just into a lot of different stuff, what would be your 5 albums, your 5 go-to albums? Like to define you. I didn't tell you in advance, so I wanted you to think about it. I can't really think about it off the top of your head.
Yes. Okay. So the number 1 is right there. It's on my wall. It's Dirt by Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
That's Alice in Chains is my favorite band of all time ever. So there's that. Another one that some people are kind of like surprised to hear sometimes is 3 Days Grace 1X. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri originally, and I started playing guitar when I was 10. And then when I got, you know, there's like 2 radio stations there for rock. There's the classic rock that plays all classic rock, and then there's the alternative station. And I really got more into that kind of music, where it was like 3 Days Grace and Shinedown and bands like that. So 1X by 3 Days Grace definitely influences my riffs and a lot of that kind of stuff. Mastermind by Monster Magnet. Monster Magnet's like my second favorite band ever.
I've never heard anybody say that before. That's pretty awesome. I like Monster Magnet too. So that's a criminally underrated band. So completely everything that they do, I'm just like, that's awesome. And then come to find out, their guitar player Ed had played a couple leads on the Glory Hole record, so it's pretty fun getting to play some of his parts too. Some of his parts. Well, maybe someday he can play some of yours. You can play with them a little bit, you know.
So so there's 3.
Yeah.
This is a little more difficult off the top of my head. I've done something like this before, but right now I'm gonna say Libertad by Velvet Revolver.
Yeah.
Because that's a, you know, combining STP and GNR into one thing. It is. You know. So
it's interesting you picked that album over the first one.
I love the first one too, but when I was growing up, I got the second one. So the second one was kind of my introduction to the band. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And then for 5th, I'd have to say Sound of Madness, I guess, by Shinedown, because that was a really big one. That was a really big one when I was growing up also.
That's a good, the opening track is just ridiculous. That's like the best song ever.
Ridiculous. Yeah, so I got off the top of my head, that's what I gotta say.
No, those are good. Those are good. I just like to do it off the top of your head, just kind of spontaneous.
I like that.
I mean, I told you we just kind of had to roll with it today. With Faster Pussycat, did you know to get into Faster Pussycat? Do you know about Faster Pussycat first? Like
not really too much. So like I've had heard of the band, and then I was good friends, or am good friends with Ace, who was their former guitar
It's
player.
fantastic. Yep.
And yeah, Ace Von Johnson. And I had seen them at a couple festival shows. Like I was playing with Gabby Ray, and we would do a lot of those same festivals like M3, and there was like Hair Nation and a few other things. But other than that, I had just kind of been familiar with a song or two. So I didn't really know the music beforehand.
It's not an uncommon thing nowadays, though. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you when you're talking. It's because the younger generation and as artists are fluctuating coming in, and everyone has a different sound when they're learning, growing up.
Yeah.
It just wasn't in your wheelhouse at the time. There's other bands too. They're like, they were in a band and it's like, oh, do you like it? She's like, no, actually, I hated that band before I got asked to be in it. So
I mean, it's, you know, and
it's
growing up when I was playing in bars and stuff, there wasn't anybody like playing, at least where I'm from, that wasn't this kind of songs we were playing. I mean, I had learned a lot of songs, but that, you know, Faster Pussycat wasn't really on the radar. And now that I've been with the band, come to find out there's so many people like back home that are like, oh my God, I love that band, you know? And, but yeah, you know, really when I was getting into it, I was like, man, this is just really some really great music. And this is going to be really fun to play. And it is
just
really
a good rock and roll band. It's kind of like, you know, a Rolling Stones type of some Scarf and some, you know, look a little different, you know, for the times, a little more fun. So yeah, I mean, you kind of scored big on a couple different things. You kind of got the both worlds.
You know, I love playing the old school parts. I love what Greg and Brent did. You know, the parts are great. You know, the riffs are great. The leads are great. And I just try to play them like the way that they were written, and then, you know, maybe be able to take a liberty here and there with a couple things.
I'm looking forward to this because if you saw the other shows, one thing they're talking about is like the first one, you know, Greg felt was more of a demo, but I really loved the rawness of the punkness of it. Yeah. And then, you know, Where's the Whip? You know, that one came out, the second one came out, you're like, oh, it's like a brand new band. The production, the songs are totally like, it's like a billion times different.
Yeah.
But fantastic. And then the third album, a lot of people, it was like, had mixed emotions. I loved it. I was like, oh, where are we going with this? Where are we going with this next? And that's, of course, when the record label kind of went off the tracks. So to see, you know, a full band back together again with an audience that's much more willing. I think the last time they did an album was a while back, and the field was as loving for rock a while back. So
yeah, the last record was quite a while ago. It came out in 2006, and you know, I think at least I hope everybody's gonna like the new stuff. I think it's something different that the fans haven't heard before, and I think that there's a really good amount of old school and new school, but not really kind of leaning too much on the industrial thing. There's elements of stuff here and there on certain songs, but like, you know, it's just trying to make stuff that, you know, that Taime thinks is cool, and that, you know, he has to be stoked about it first.
Well, the thing is, he's never done the same album.
No, he has not.
In any of his projects, and any of his fans, so like to think, I don't know, like to me, I'm excited just to hear what comes out. There's a big audience now for rock, you know, the revival. Yeah. So like it was kind of like, you know, back into it. So it's really kind of cool. Is like if someone goes, oh, it doesn't sound like Faster Pussycat. I'm like, dude, have you listened to every single album? You know, even the first three sound like totally different bands. You know, they each have a new sound.
Well,
so to say it doesn't sound like Faster Pussycat, you know?
Yeah, I mean, even back then, I've seen in interviews where they were talking about how they were still kind of even learning their instruments back then. So each one just got progressively better because they just got to be progressively better musicians, and everything just evolved.
Well, that's the thing. It's funny. I mean, the first one was just like, really, they just were throwing everything together, and it's such a classic, great album. But then, this, you know, the first one, the second one. So, like I said, this is going to be good. It's going to be good. Your input in it. It's going to, you know, anything with his voice on it is really ends up being Faster Pussycat anyhow. So that's pretty cool. So, yeah. With that being said, you are getting quite a name for yourself as the guitar guy, the young guitar slinger, you know, in a good way. On a daily basis, how much you practicing? What are you doing for routine? I mean, because you're doing studio work too, so you're probably playing a lot more guitar now. But if you're not, do you have a balance, like busy day, not day type of?
I'm really bad about practicing. I mean, I'll play a lot, but like really kind of sitting with like a metronome and running scales, that's not, I don't really do that kind of thing. The most I just kind of, I'm always kind of working with sounds and kind of, you know, messing as I'm looking with the pedal at the pedal board that I spent 7 hours making the other day. It's, you know, I'm doing a lot of, I do a lot of demoing. So I guess the most, my practicing kind of is kind of recording and always trying to get even more accurate at playing along to a click and stuff like that. And always just kind of trying to find new weird licks and stuff. So I'm not always really sitting here to trying to run scales and be able to do like Ingve stuff, even though it'd be great to be able to do that.
It's more a general question, you know, to get an idea. There's a wrong answer. I like to know part of the process. It's the same thing, like, is like when you're writing songs, like, you know, it's like, you know, Steve Vai says, like, I have a guitar in every room in my house. So if I have a melody, I can think about it. I imagine like playing it in my head, like everyone has a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
So I just like to see like what your process is, you know.
Yeah, I'll just kind of sit and try to find a riff that, you know, hopefully sounds cool or sounds different, and try to make, just try to think of a sound in my head and then try to make it come out of the guitar, really. So whatever that takes to do, whether it's like an ebow, whether it's just making some noise and doing some crap, whether it's tuning the low string on the new Faster Pussycat song that comes out on May 21st, 2021. You know, there's even a talk box part that it's doubled and the song's in drop D. So there's a talk box part, but then for the second one, I just randomly decided to tune the low string down to like G, because, you know, going into the pre-chorus, it goes to G. So, you know, it hits like a low G along with the fretted G. So weird stuff like that. Always just trying.
No, that's really cool. I think that's really cool. I can imagine Taime, you know, feels the influence because you have a different aspect of coming in, of experience, your age and your background, but clearly going to the Guitar Institute, right? And you have a huge wealth of proper music knowledge also. You can kind of blend it, which really makes music pretty interesting, you know?
I try to combine. I did go to, the reason I moved to LA was to go to college for music, and I got a bachelor's degree from Musicians Institute. So I try to combine understanding things with just like doing weird and wacky things on guitar. And then with Taime, especially, it's always just, you know, just trying to do something, you know, when he's like, oh, that's, I don't know if I can curse, but he's like, if it's, yeah, that's fucking cool. You know, when he's like, oh, that's fucking cool, then it feels pretty cool. Or if he has an idea, you know, I just want it to be super easy, and it should hopefully be really easy and not super hard. And so if he has an idea for like a melody or something, I just try to make it come out of the guitar and then think like, oh, if this needs some kind of effect, that just kind of pops in my head too.
That's great, because of, like I said, because of how the album's all been different, and I've loved that, and knowing your background. So talking to you, as we talk more about it, like, it's real exciting, because it's like, oh, you know what I mean? The potential for the old and new mixing and creating.
There's definitely a really, I really do want people to know there definitely is a old school vibe for sure. I know that's something that a lot of people, you know, miss because of, you know, the last record, what was done. I personally love the Glory Hole record, but I just, you know, because I just love all different kinds of rock and stuff.
I do too. I mean, I like the Newly Deads too, but I think the people that, a lot of people didn't like it, that were steadfast. But those are usually the same people like the first two Pussycat albums, and didn't like the third one as much. Because,
you know, for the people for the people that like the first and second record, there are songs coming down the line that are certainly in the old school realm that people are really going to dig. And the first one, you know, I think is a really hearty amount of old and new school, but not the kind of new school that people weren't really into. You know, because I run the band's social media, so I always read what people are saying. And you know, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, you know, they weren't so crazy about Glory Hole, but they were like, oh, but I like Number One with a Bullet. So it's like, okay, well, the things that people like, I think are going to be present in the
Carried
stuff
over.
that's
That's
coming.
good.
Yeah.
That's quite a website though for a band. A lot of
Oh,
bands
it's,
are either hit or miss with being active. That one's loaded.
yeah, Taime's got a great web guy. Yeah.
It's great. And he's got a lot of live music on there too. It's kind of cool. I like that. Links to the videos and stuff. Kind of fun, right?
Thank you, dude.
Peace, brother. Bye.